I said it. Now, one more piece and then we're done. So the Jewish people who had gotten military training to defend the Suez Canal and to fight to defend Israel from a German invasion, because at one point the Africa Corps, led by the German genius, military genius Erwin Rommel, got very close to being in a position where they could have taken Egypt out of the war, but they got beaten by Montgomery at El Alamein, 1942. But these Jewish people began to fight against the British government that was trying to prevent Jewish people from coming to Israel. And they engaged in all kinds of terrorism, killing, massacres, bombings, all kinds of stuff. The crowning event is the bombing of the King David Hotel, 90 plus people killed. They blew up, they bombed and did all kinds of stuff. Yes, they did. Ultimately, the United Nations in 1948, with all the machinations and bribes and stuff given, decided to partition, to give a significant part of what was Palestine to the Jews who were big in Haifa and some of these other places, and let the Palestinians have their half. There was never going to be a sharing. The Israelis began mass killing Palestinians all over the place. There were dozens and dozens of massacres. As many as 20,000 Palestinians were butchered. Peaceful people who had gotten along with their Jewish neighbors that got killed anyway. Deir Yassin is one. I mean, look it up. This isn't a history that you can't find. And these people fled. And God, figure if you're going to throw grenades, the Arab population wasn't well armed. I mean, they're up against people with military training and all who were coming in, who had weapons smuggled from America, from the Jewish mafia, and other people were getting all kinds of weapons in it for these people to go to war. And their kibbutzes were basically like little forts. It was based on the forts that you put up in the Indian Territory in America. Out west, you put a stockade up, you set up a fortress so you can be in someone else's space. And if they try to expel you, you're going to cost them a couple of lives trying to move you out. So, 750,000 Palestinians got displaced. And you have the state of Israel. And the descendants of these displaced Palestinians are still in Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Gaza, the occupied territories in the West Bank. They're all over the place. Now, that's how you got Israel. Let's segue real quick. One of the first countries in the Middle East to have a written constitution was Iran. Their constitution was run down in part because of foreign machination. People didn't want them to get their stuff together. Okay, it's not just blacks in America, folks, outsiders messing in your business. You had the Qajars, who were this corrupt dynasty that ruled for a couple hundred years. They phased out. And in the 1920s, you got the Pahlavis. You had the father of Mohammad Reza Shah, who took over. He was a big fan of Hitler. And in the early 1940s, he got forced to move to South Africa, of all places. And his son, the last Shah of Iran, whose son is telling people that Iran is going to have a regime change so he can go back and be king. He becomes head of state in the 1940s. Just a couple of years before the state of Israel was declared. The CIA and the British MI6 and others are behind him being there, as well as the United States military. In the 1950s, they get a really good leader, sort of like the Malcolm X of Iran. His name is Mohammad Mossadegh. He nationalizes the oil. One of the first people to say, hey, it's our shit, we should get paid for it. And America and Britain come together to destroy him, which they did. And they made the Shah a dictator who's basically a puppet of the CIA, America, and Britain. And what happens is when his ass times out because he at least wanted to get paid well for his oil, they got rid of him. They thought that they could control the Muslim Islamists, and it turns out Ayatollah Khomeini had more games in the circuits. These Muslim folks who are Shia in Iran under Ayatollah Khomeini have this whole belief that they have a mission to help free oppressed people, in particular in the Middle East, and the priority is Al-Quds or Jerusalem. So from 1979, or I guess they've been in power since 79, 80, when they kicked the Shah's ass out. They're the first Islamic republic, and they made it clear they're not for the occupation of Palestine by Israel. Let's stop for a second. Do you have questions, sister? Am I explaining this in a live, intelligent way? I'm just trying to put this together. I'm going as fast as I can to bring everybody along.
No, it is wonderfully presented. It is beautiful.
So, okay, good. So now we get the Shah's ass. The Shah, he was really good to maybe the top 20% of Iran. He developed the country really fast. He didn't like all the religious people. He's sort of like the Boule to black people. Certain black folks who don't, basically, they want to look like they give a damn about the rest of us, but they don't. And they only help people at a certain level. So Iran got all of this money, and on top of that, the Shah, that they don't give him credit for, he was a bitch about that oil. He made certain that Iran got top dollar for their oil, and Iran's economy boomed. But he didn't like, because you have to understand something. We talked about the emancipation of the Jews from their rabbis, but in a lot of traditional Islamic societies, the people are ruled by their religious leaders, their mullahs.
Yes.
Okay. And these guys have a lot of power. Iran is one of the few, it's probably the only predominant Shia country in the world. Shia Islam is partisans of Ali, one of the nephews or grandsons, but he's a family member of Muhammad. Brother Ford, you know better. It's either a nephew or a grandson, something like that. It's not a son. Thought that they should be the successor of the initial caliphs, the initial leaders of the Islamic ulama started by Muhammad the Prophet, peace be upon him, for all you Muslims out there. And the corrupt Umayyads and others slaughtered the father and the son. So out of this, you get a dissident group of Muslims who believe that Ali was supposed to be the successor to the men that succeeded Muhammad. And this is seen as heretical by Sunni Muslims to the point where people shed blood over the differences of view.